Hello everyone, I'm Azeem. It does take a lot of courage to get on stage, and I'm fortunate enough to have done this a lot of times. It takes a lot of courage also to get up on stage, because I'm absolutely full of hay fever at the moment, so I apologise for how I sound like, but the show will go on. Also, a second apology, if you were here at the last PR show in October, I was meant to do this talk then, but I had to reschedule it because life gets in the way. Anyway, moaning over, I knew that I was going to be the first one to open up the show today. So last night when we did a tour, I kind of snuck in and did something silly, so we're going to play a little game. Don't do it yet, but underneath one of your chairs, I've hidden a prize, right? So in a second, I'm going to ask you to look. If you find it, you win it. That prize is yours, but it's my way of making sure that you're engaged today. So I'll give you 30 seconds to find it. Your 30 seconds starts now. If you do find it, put your hand up in the air, and then you've got it. Okay, I think we've got a winner. The winner is me. I lied, there is no prize. I just needed to make sure that you were all awake and engaged for the show. No, you are. Thank you very much. So, sorry, I do it all the time. I need to think of something new. We're going to talk about how you can use audio and video to level up your content strategy. If you've ever seen me talk before, I do a little quick intro to myself. I've been fortunate enough to talk in lots of places, and also I do believe that we don't shout about our own successes enough, so I'm going to take 20 seconds to lost mark up my own backside briefly. I talk at lots of conferences. That's me very fortunate to do a talk on the main stage of brightonSEO. Shameless plug, 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. Please do join me, Andy, Jarvis and Fabio. We've got a brilliant session on equality planned. You will literally laugh your socks off. I also judge awards. I speak at events like this, but I also have my own podcast, Doesn't Everybody in Marketing? It's called the Azeem Digital Asks Podcast, and as of last year, it's rated in the top 10 amongst UK digital marketing podcasts. It covers absolutely everything that you see on there that's related to marketing and more. And one of the things that I do differently, that I like to think that I do differently, is a lot of podcasts are basically, there's no nice way to say it, but it's basically white guys talking to white guys. So I found a gap in the market, and I thought, right, I only want to speak to people who I consider to be marginalised, such as people of colour, people from the LGBTQ plus community, women, people who genuinely don't get a chance. I don't care if you've got 3, 30 or 3 million followers. If you are part of those groups and want to have a chat with me about anything related to marketing, call me. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Here's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. I'm going to give you some assumptions. I'm going to talk to you about audio, video, and I'm briefly going to talk to you about distribution as well. So let's start off with a couple of assumptions. Whenever I do a talk, I try to make my talks as widely applicable as possible. For example, I'm currently in-house in B2B, industrial manufacturing, and B2C, I should say as well. I don't think giving you a specific case study of something that I've done will be of any value to you, so I try and make my talks as broad as possible so that there's something in there that you can all take away from it. Like I said, there's not going to be any generic case studies. I'm going to work on the fact that you've got a strategy, which either is international or all over the UK in this case, and that you want to take it to the next level. I want to move away from this type of thinking. So where we say, this year, for our content strategy, or for our SEO strategy, for our digital PR strategy, this is what we lead. I think we can do better than that. And also, because I'm always talking to a digital PR crowd, to keep you engaged, I'm going to give you a slice of 4+ million links, and hopefully that word links will trigger you. I can't say it properly because I'm full of hay fever, but YOLO. Hot take. I didn't mention earlier that I also have a penchant for buying shirts that quite clearly fit 12 to 13-year-old boys. But let's move on. I think that we get measurement wrong, and I'm happy to be challenged constructively on that after this. But I think we get measurement wrong. As of January last year, tracking ROI in digital marketing returns nearly 16 million results. If you look at it this year, it's either 22 or 23 million results. But I don't think there are that many ways to track digital marketing. I think it's such a convoluted thing and nobody really knows what or how to track that people just write lots of articles about it. So, for example, I'm not going to spend 30 minutes giving you slides like this, but if you're measuring purely brand awareness, look at how many ways you can track that. Social, page views, referrals, downloads. If you look at straightforward engagement, likes, forwards, retweets, shares, sales, I won't read them all out, but you're getting the point. Whatever you measure, there's lots of different ways to measure it. We get basically stuck in this phase of measuring everything. And then the big one, which hopefully I should still include it here, is digital PR. Links. We love a link in digital PR. So, this is the problem as I see it. And again, I'll give you a few things here, but please do feel free, if you disagree, to challenge me and have a conversation about it. When it comes to our audience, I think that we know what they want, but we don't necessarily know how they want it. And that's when I was doing some research for this talk and continuously learning, I came across this phrase of content velocity. Just by nodding, I'm not going to ask you to show your hands. Does anybody know what content velocity is? Okay, a couple of people. Content velocity is basically this. I won't read it all out again, but please do read it. Essentially, it's basically you compare how much content you, your brand, your client is putting out versus your competitor over a period of time. Personal opinion, I think it's nonsense. I think the amount of time that you spend looking at what your competitor is doing is only going to make them better. You will only ever be second place, for example. You'll never ever get above second place because that time you invest looking at your competitors or your clients' competitors, you could spend on creating better content for your own business and your own clients. So here's another hot take. When it comes to written content, hit and hope doesn't work anymore. I've strayed away from saying it for so long, but I think with the advent of things like AI, ChatGPT, you can literally just spill out anything now. But one of the things that I want you to take away is that model is predictive. It predicts stuff. Before all that stuff happened, people just used to spill out content galore. We'll put content out. Here's a blog. We'll shove it out. Oh, that blog worked well. We'll shove another one out on this topic. I don't think that works anymore. The internet has certainly moved on. When it comes to digital PR, it has its own challenges too. Hopefully you'll all remember this particular tweet, which is one of the best tweets that I've seen in a long time. It's basically, it's basically where someone said, journalists saying they can't add a link to a story, and then an actual journalist come back and said some not very kind things, but we know that's not true. In this talk, I'm going to show you how you can go from basic to advanced in 3 steps when it comes to your content production. I'm not expecting you to make a huge amount of notes, but grab pictures and I definitely will share the slides afterwards. This, have I got a laser? It doesn't work. The very first one here is basic. This is where I think a lot of people are now, and that's okay. It's where you decide what topic works best for you or your clients, and you use that as a framework to create more content. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with being there. The better version of it is UA, or Universal Analytics data. It shows that the longest path has 9 touch points. That's better. It's only going to be around for a short while though. The more advanced version of it is where you split out your top 5 markets or your areas of the UK or sections of the industry that you work in and understand which areas of those prefer audio, video, more, both, or less. I'm going to show you how to do that very, very quickly. The basic version is this. You open up analytics, good old analytics. You look at it and you say, wow, I love this. I can't believe it's going away soon. And you have this engagement data here. You can do stuff with that. This is from Google's own demo store. The better version of it is you look into your top conversion paths in UA and you see what converts most, how long the paths are. You make an analysis on those paths. You see how long they are and figure out how many points it takes a person to purchase and where you can inject your own content. The more advanced version of it looks like this. You go back into GA4, you come to terms with the fact that it's happening very soon and that you do need to get on board with it. And you can split it here. So in this example, I've broken out the USA, and I can see here using cross-channel data-driven or DDA, where the paths are, how many conversions happen early, mid, or late, and how those channels play with each other and work differently with one another. Excuse me. When it comes to navigating GA4, to show you some of this stuff, video tracking has to be enabled, and you can do that from where I've shown you there, admin data streams, and enhanced measurement, video engagement. There's lots of guides galore, and luckily, some of these slides will look like this, where I've literally shown you how to do it. You set up an event like this. This is for video. You go into reports, engagement, and events, and then you can see here, you've triggered events based on where people have progressed a video, where they've started it, and where they've completed it. It's really straightforward, and once you can get that data into your GA, you can actually do stuff with it, and I'll show you how shortly. Then you can do the same for scroll depth as well. As a very basic introduction guide, I would say tell 25, 50, 75, and 100. But when you start to get really granular with this stuff, you can create your own levels of percentages. You can do 1, 2, 3. If you get really granular, don't think that it tells you a huge amount though. So, if you put those two things together, now, you can split them out on a country basis, for example, and you can see how far your users in Italy will scroll down your page and how much of which videos they're watching. Super, super useful. If there's low interest from your business or your client, they think, why do you want to do this? It's a lot of work, it's a lot of admin, it's a lot of technical stuff. Use multi-channel funnels in universal analytics to convince. And here's an example of how you can do this. This is an example of the multi-channel funnels report. There is loads of stuff happening there. And for example, I know in this room I'm talking to a lot of digital PRs. Digital PR is going to be one node of this massive path, right? You take that to your clients, the senior people in your business, and you say, right, I need to do this because in this conversion path, let's say here, if that's digital PR and that is taken out, how confident are you that the rest of the steps will follow if we didn't have that piece of coverage there, for example? That is a guaranteed way, 99% guaranteed I should say, 99% way guaranteed to get buy-in from your clients and help them to understand. One of the things that I read very recently, which I wasn't sure that I was going to mention, but I'm going to absolutely mention it now, is we still work in channel silos. I literally read something early this week where there was a guy, he was a PPC specialist, and he was talking about how he's doing everything that he normally does. There's no major seasonality or panic within his business, but he noticed that his click costs were going through the roof, and he couldn't figure out why, and he was sat in his own little PPC box. When he started talking to the people who worked on the other channels, he found out that there was a digital PR campaign running that was working well, getting loads of coverage, sending loads of traffic to the client's website, but it was irrelevant traffic. So these people were becoming aware of the brand through digital PR activity, then following up searching and clicking on the ads with low interest to the client or the product. So low in digital PR, for example, the big one that everybody talks about is gambling websites. It's exactly the same. They were driving lots of activity to the website. So from a digital PR point of view, they were like, yeah, great, we're getting the coverage, we're probably getting the links, it's all working out for us. But the same guy who's working for the same client from a PPC point of view, he's saying, my click costs are now going through the roof. And he figured out why, and now they've got to work together to figure out how to move on beyond that. Anyway, let's move on. Here's an example of how you can use this information, and I'm going to do this again on a country basis. Let's say you've got an audience in France. They don't scroll a lot, but they'll watch your videos for a long amount of time. This is where you can create long-form videos. I hate the way that I sound with this hay fever, I'm so sorry. Create long-form videos and include them early on in the page. If you know that your audience is not going to scroll, give them what they want earlier in the page. Why would you make it difficult for them? It just doesn't make sense. People still do it. Let's say in Spain, for example, it's the opposite. They won't really, they will scroll a lot, but they won't really watch your videos. This is where you can literally create informational content galore. Think of the old style recipe page where you've got the author's life story before you get the actual recipe. Give them highly detailed, informative content. You can then use this data to see where the drop-off occurs. Using PPC, you can use RLSA, which is short for remarketing lists for search ads, and bring them back to the website. Then you can dedicate their own PPC landing page to boost conversion rate. An example of how I've done this is in the past I've worked on a campaign that was designed to get people to sign up to a service to help them stop smoking. I used this information to see where people dropped off the page, and then we created specifically targeted PPC ad that basically said something like 96% of people who sign up with company X commit to and stop smoking when they use our service. Great way to get people to come back to the website, sign up, and to make sure this stuff actually works. Let's say in Italy, you've got an average scroller video and a high ASD, which I've called average session duration. By the way, in this industry, we have so many acronyms, it's really hard to keep on top of, but average session duration. These are the people that I call page hoppers, so they're very likely to be in the research stage. So this is where you can build an audience and again, use remarketing in PPC to bring them back. Target them with key facts and figures to ensure that your brand or your client will stay in front of their mind. That is average scrolling video. And then finally, in Germany, if they're not going to scroll and they're not going to watch your videos, you've got a problem. The content is a clear disconnect with what you're giving the audience and what they're looking for. This is where probably things like very short form videos earlier in the purchase or lead journey, the engagement is not there. Like I said, review your content and review your targeting. There's quite clearly a disconnect. I can see somebody taking a picture, so I'll let you take it before I move on. But the very last one, there's quite clearly a disconnect. If they won't scroll and they're not watching the video, there's something wrong. So let's move on. Let me talk to you about the power of audio. Quite simply, as it says there, you can give text a voice, and later in the talk I'll show you how you can do this. So it's super low on production value and cost, and it's so easy to get into. Honestly, for maybe less than 50 quid, I would say, you can get into the audio space. There's a massive demand for podcasts, audio tweets, and audiograms to drive traffic. I know because I am seeing this. Here's an example. This is an episode of my podcast where I simply took a headshot of the guest, layered on a clip of audio and a sound wave to make it look like the image is moving, shoved a link there, and I've said, please listen to this podcast. Just by doing that, adding a headshot of the guest and a snippet of audio, I've reached over 700 people. What did I pay for that? Absolutely nothing. And this is me just as a one-man band doing this in my spare time. I could get in front of 700 people by doing this and paying nothing. At this point, you might be thinking, right, I hate my accent. Nobody wants to hear people who sound like me. I absolutely thought this when I started my podcast, and the caffeine that I had this morning is starting to kick in. Right, let me show you this. This you might have seen before. This is the most attractive accents in the British Isles mapped, right? I don't know who did this, so I can't give them credit. As you can see, the most attractive is Southern Irish. Everybody knows that. Even I like the Irish accent. At the very bottom is the Brummie Birmingham accent. Guess where I was born closest to? The very last one. The point here is, although it's a bit funny, if I could do it, anybody can do it. Literally, it's so easy to get into. Let me tell you about video, for example. Just on Twitter alone, before the new guy in charge absolutely destroys it, video views have grown massively in the last year, over 220 times. It's shared more than text and image content. I know because I've done this and I've tested it. One of the things that I've done with my podcast is I try and break it as often as possible. Tomorrow, without giving too much away, I'm absolutely going to try and break it in the biggest way that I can just to see if it works. Landing pages that include video convert better. If you don't believe me, try this. Stay away from industry benchmarks of the industries that you work in or operate in, and do this for yourself and see if this stuff works. I can't talk about audio and video without talking about TikTok. You will all have seen stuff like this where people are saying, right, everybody's going to TikTok now. Google are worried that it's eating into their core products. There's been guides about TikTok SEO. Shameless plug, I literally did a podcast episode about it. If you want to learn everything about TikTok, about its ranking factors, algorithm, what impact it has on SEO and search behavior, Lydia, my guest, studied their actual whole, however long the document was, of all of its ranking factors, and literally it's probably one of the best performing episodes that I've done. If you're into TikTok, definitely check that out. Video, as I mentioned here, here's another example. So this is a guest, you may know her, Jasmine, she's brilliant. I did an episode with her all about digital PR. I included a clip of our episode with subtitles as well, put a link in, told the audience what the episode is about. Again, over 1,700 people. I didn't pay a thing. I never promoted that tweet, and I just put it in front of those people. You can do this for your own clients. It is super easy. You might be thinking, right, okay, this is great. Loads of knowledge there, Azeem. Where do I start? How do I begin on this journey? Look at your old content that you've already got on your site or your own client's website. If it's all text only, right, use your own voice or somebody in your office who's got a nicer voice. Record teaser snippets, release them across multiple platforms. The only way you're going to find out what's working and what's not working is if you put it out on multiple platforms and then look at the information that you're getting back. If you're in e-com, for example, or not in e-com, you can use video to show and tell about your client, product or service. I'll tell you about e-com in a second, but even if you're not in e-com, if you're in law, legal, highly regulated sector, there's no harm in releasing a quick video saying, hi, I'm Joe Blogs, here's my legal company, blah, blah, blah. There's a very viral video, which I stray away from including video in my slides, but there's a very viral video of a law firm in America where you might have seen it. There's a man, and he's saying, I'm Joe Bloggs, this is my law firm. I turn up every morning at 6 a.m. and I don't leave until 7 p.m. And the receptionists behind him are laughing because they know that he doesn't do that. Supremely viral. Strongly check it out. E-com, this is what I wanted to talk about. Not enough people in e-com are doing this. How-to or physical demos of the products that you sell using audio and video and describing the benefits. Currently, some of the things that I'm working on in the e-com space involve door handles, for example. Not a very easy thing to sell, very niche thing that you require, but simple how to install a door handle, how to purchase multiple door handles. For example, they all have the same purpose, but this is such a niche thing that the company that I work for released a product where you can install it in 5 minutes. We will hammer that video out everywhere. The benefit is important of it too. Testimonials are key. Like I've said here, people buy from people. There's massive review companies who literally ask people, so you might have bought a product and then get an email 3, 5, 7, and then 14 days saying, please review us. After 14 days, they stop bothering you. Companies are now sending emails out saying, thanks for buying from us. If you're interested in recording a short video about your experiences with this product, we will then feature you in our social media campaigns. That's much more engaging, I feel. If somebody sent me an email saying, review us, give us a video, and we'll feature in our next social media campaign, I would be all over it. It's a fantastic way to drive conversion. And then finally, it will come down to distribution. So great, you're in this place, you've got all your stuff together, but now you're thinking, how do I get it out there? How do I put it out? How do I get this in front of people? When it comes to distribution, there's 2 words that I think of, right? Spelt 1 word, but it's 2. That is Ross Simmons. If you don't follow this guy on social media or tweet a link to his page, right, nobody thinks about distribution like he does. He has a phrase that basically says, create once, distribute forever. And certainly in this country, for example, Ross is not from the UK, should I? In this country, I think we are very shy about promoting our own work, which is why at the start I took 20 seconds to just shout about myself. Thank you for listening to me drone on there. But we don't do it enough. And here's an example of his framework, right, which genuinely works because I've done this. Before you hit publish, build a bit of hype around it. Tell people that something is going to happen or that you are going to do something different. Build that interest before publish happens. They'll create a launch day. So for example, if I was in that legal firm and I'm going to start to get into audio and video, we're going to say, right, on the 14th, you definitely want to come back here because we're doing something big, which is going to be in your interest. Sign up here, generate leads, talk about it on social media, for example. Drive that interest, get people intrigued. There's your launch day. When your launch day comes, hit publish and share it like there's no tomorrow across multiple platforms. There's a difference between copy and paste and put it on every single channel. They'll create an actual content for the channel. So for example, I'm giving away a massive secret here. When I post something on Twitter, I will write it knowing that people are probably only going to read the first couple of lines. I don't think anybody challenged me on this. So the new feature on Twitter where you can write literally War and Peace, nobody presses show more, nobody reads that. I want people's attention within the first couple of lines. On LinkedIn, for example, I know there's a certain amount of characters before you get the show more that happens. So I know that I need to capture people's attention in the first line on LinkedIn. So when I share my podcast, for example, I'll share a quote. I just recently, last week, released an episode with Jo from the team at brightonSEO. She said a great thing in the episode where she said something like, find your people, don't worry about the noise. Put that on LinkedIn, and it generated so much traffic to the podcast just from a quote like that. I would never say that on Twitter. Once you're done, you will get feedback, positive and negative. Engage with it all. Again, this is something that I think that we don't do a lot of. So you might have people commenting saying, this is great, love this, or they might tag somebody in on social media. So you then get involved. That's your opportunity as the brand or as the agency for the brand to get involved. So if I have tagged my friend Joe Bloggs, go back on there and say, thanks for tagging Joe. We think you really enjoy this product, service, or whatever. Engage with everything. On that point, when you get negative comments, I'm sure you all know this anyway, never, never, never delete them. Try and have a conversation about it in a positive way, saying, oh, sorry that you're upset by this, please DM us if you want any more information or if there's anything that we can do to make your experience better for you. That's that. This is where we fail. We don't do it again. So we'll do all that stuff once, tick off a box, and then move on. That's where I think we should be repeating this process and carry on. And you've got a fantastic framework there to literally create content, distribute content, and move on. At the start of the talk, I mentioned here about 4 million links. And I'm glad to see that you're all still awake. This is the 4 million links, and this is Ross's page there. So if you don't follow him already, that's a perfect chance to follow him. Canva used exactly that framework, led to a $6 billion valuation, ridiculous amounts of links, and ridiculous amounts of visits per year. Everybody wants a graph that looks like that, right? I can see a couple of people take a picture, so I'll leave it on. That is genuinely one of the most interesting things I've read in this industry in the past 18 to 24 months, outside of all this AI hype that's going on. Read that, look at what they're doing, certainly with outreach and content. It will change the way you think about those two areas. Ultimately, I'm coming to the end, but these are the summary points that I want you to take away. You have to be on board with GA4. Lots of noise in the industry about, oh, you need to be into SQL, you need to be into big data or whatever. I think it scares people and puts people off. Get on board with the basics, because very soon, there's less than 100 days, that's the only thing that you'll be able to look at. Understand which countries they want audio, video, none, or both. The barrier to entry is super low, super cheap. As I mentioned, I can do it, anybody can do it. Segment your strategy in this way, by market or region that you operate in, and you'll have greater impact. That is pretty much it. These are my details if you're interested in following me on either LinkedIn or Twitter. Thank you so much for bearing with me, especially as I'm full of hay fever and I genuinely sound like my head's going to explode. If you want any more, if you want to ask me any questions, these are my details. My email is there. I would love it if you checked out the podcast. And if you do want to be a guest, drop me an email. But ultimately, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.